Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel, and I'm doing a quick review of Married at First Sight, season 12, episode 11 with Chris and Paige. And this one, it looks like it's going to be the end of them. So before we jump into this video, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, smash that like button and also drop a comment down below. So let's talk about Chris and Paige. And it started out this episode where Chris planned a basketball date that they could hang out and, shoot around and, have some activity. Paige, she definitely stated how she wanted to continue the journey and she has hope for the best. And we also heard Chris say that he's not giving up in this marriage as well. The thing is what they say, does it actually going to manifest in the words that they speak? And that's the thing. So let's talk further into this. They talked about long-term goals. We saw where Chris stated that he wanted to own about 3 or 4 businesses. And he had mentioned that she didn't have any long-term goals, which is fine. But he definitely wanted businesses to build his generational wealth, have some children and have a happy family. But the issue with them, as he stated, they've been through heavy storms. Heavy storms isn't the word for it. So from what we've seen from the last 11 episodes, is basically everything from the baby situation, his initial reaction to what we saw with the type of person that, he expected to marry. It's just like he said, it's been storms, heavy storms. He has this conversation about him being an introvert, and Paige found that pretty interesting because he seemed to be so outspoken. But he says that, yeah, I might look like I am the life of the party, but after a while, when I'm at a party, I just go over into my corner and retreat. This is where Paige kind of want to bring up something that Pastor Dwight talks about with her. And this is where he goes on about their history together and where they met years ago. And one of the things about him meeting Chris at that point is that he remembered him being engaged before. And this is a conversation that Paige wanted to bring up and find out, okay, how come you didn't tell me about, the first engagement? And he went on in detail, and he said that when he was 20 years old and how, he wanted to be married. Now, he did not go into detail to her about the length of their engagement. He said, I don't want to talk about that. She didn't push the issue that we know of, but he definitely didn't want to explain that. But the fact that he wanted to be married, and he goes into the situation, which I did hear about this in one of his other stories, about the financial stability that he didn't have at the time at 20, and how that engagement did not work out and she was told not to be with him. From what he said, they originally broke up, got back together, and then she left, due to, the fact of his financial stability. So this is definitely one thing that they should have talked about in the beginning, which Paige did mention, hey, why you didn't put that on the table then? And he agreed, that this is some conversation that they should have had. And that's one thing, you need to be transparent in your relationship where, when you start off. Their situation, they started off with a marriage. So they definitely needed the transparency all the way around. Now, the other part of this is the interesting conversation that Paige has with the girls, meaning Brianna and with Haley. And so she was telling them, it looked like we're trying to rebuild, and, there's a lot of cracks in the foundation, but we're kind of starting over and building a friendship. So my thing is, okay, if you want to start over, that's one thing, but you guys are in a legal marriage. this friendship thing, yes, but it's not working. So, I mean, and that's the one thing that especially Brianna took notice. Um, one of the things that Brianna said in her confessional is that she thinks that Chris is playing games, that he's not ready, and that there's a lot of BS going on. And she made something interesting, meaning Paige. She made an interesting statement saying, am I falling in love with the idea of marriage other than actually who I'm married to? That's a good point. Because there are a lot of women out here who's like, I got to get married. I want to get married. I want the frills. I want to be married. But you got to also make sure that the person that you choose to be with is somebody that's compatible with you, that's on the same path as you, the same life goals as you, not just being married. Because you want to be happily married, not just married with all of these storms that, Chris referred to. So now, they got up together because Chris wanted to do a date playing pool. And, they're both pretty excited about this. He claims to production that, he finds her more attractive. He sees her differently now. So it started off great or good or whatever, positive. I'll just say it like that. It started off positive. They got competitive with each other. Paige is saying that how she wants to put in the effort of building a connection with him and vice versa, and how quickly things can change. And before the weather and the temperature changed from sunny days to a thunderstorm, he beat her in pool. At first, it looks like he said he was kind of rusty, but just the fact that they, tried to make the best of this date, I guess something could be said for that. But it seemed like for the moment they were definitely having a good time. But the thing is, those times are few and far in between. Because the moment that it looks all positive from the basketball date, from what playing pool, then this conversation of communication came up and how they need to build patterns, because Paige said it's non-consistent. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And she was like, I need you to be consistent. The thing is that he now states to her, well, let's talk about that, because I've been trying to call you several times to try to go out with you, meet up with you, and do things with you off camera, and I get no answer. And she was like, I was on the phone with my mom. Why couldn't you text me? And he's not a texting person, he says. And it just started to go south real quick. And I don't know, it seems as if he made it sound like, and this is just what it sounds like, that she was being one way off camera by not speaking to him, but expecting communication on camera. Let me know if that's what you heard from that conversation. But communication, she says, is not just doing the job. It's got to be a good job. And they were saying, especially Chris, he was saying we're definitely not being, doing a good job as being spouses. Again, you guys just reconnected saying that you're friends. So being a spouse at this point, I think Haley and Jacob is more closely to being spouses at this point, and we know their situation versus what's going on with Chris and Paige. You guys just did a reset in episode 10 or 11, and this is 12, I think. Anywho, yeah, you in the friend zone right now. And then everything with the situation with the car last week, and it's just not working. And this is what happens when one person is not all in, which Chris stated, I'm not 100% in, even though he goes back and forth, and that can be quite confusing, because it's at one point, are you in and you're interested, or are you out and you're ready to check out? So, there's no connection, Chris said. The mental connection is gone. And it seemed like we're at a dead end. And she got upset and she's like, well, what do you think I'm trying to do? I'm trying to be here. I'm trying to do that. And it just went back and forth. It's not going to work with these two. At the beginning of the season, I had hopes for the both of them because I'm one that believe in black love. And there's tons of examples out there. So don't let mainstream media let you think that it don't exist. And these two people are not good together, but they'll definitely find their person in the future. And hopefully they'll both learn from this experience what they don't want in a relationship and what they do want in a relationship. You know, I'm all about progression. I want to see these two people progress into something better from here. You know, I'm not the dragger. I'm not the troller. So my thing is I look for the betterment in people. And Paige definitely need to look into seeing why. I know she have her reasons from what we heard. And at the same time, Chris, he's been quickly involved in two engagements and a marriage. And it just doesn't work. Maybe he's also, in love with the idea of being married too, but it's more than just the idea. So she finally sits alone because at this point, Chris is checked out. He's done. And she sits alone with because it's the month-iversary of all of the couples, and looking back at their journey and how they started out through, the album that is provided. And I mean, even though the pictures look beautiful, what's behind the pictures it's just been storms for them. And I'm quoting Chris's words. It's just not going to work. These two are not compatible. Zodiologically, they're not compatible. She's a Cancer. He's a Libra. Libras usually gel with Geminis and Leos, and Cancers deal with other water signs. It's just not a compatibility match. What they're looking for, maybe on paper, whatever they signed up for on this questionnaire was, one thing, and they got matched how they were matched, whether it was the experts, whether it was production, whoever it was. It just wasn't a good fit. And at this point, I mean, Chris has been trying to get out of this situation for the last several episodes, which, of course, Paige is pulling for her marriage because of the fact of her Christianity and trying to stick through this. But at what cost? At the cost of the mental health of the both of them. It's not fair to both of them. They need to move on. And I'm going to quote what my favorite YouTube couple says
You
here.
cannot keep a man that does not want to be kept, okay? And I feel like that's very important to know as a woman.
So this was in a prank video, but her saying was spot on. You can't keep a man that don't want to be kept. And that goes vice versa for a woman. So Jacob needs to think about that when it comes to Haley. But at the end of this, Paige says she needs to choose herself. And hopefully that's what happens from this point forward. So I hope you enjoyed that video. But before we go, we're going to do post notification shout out. If you want to be shouted out, drop a comment. I'll see you and shout you out. So the first one goes to Derek Johnson. Thank you so much for your engagement. Yes, I agree with you. They shouldn't have been put together. Also, Janice Dawkins, thank you as well for your comment. I really appreciate you as well. And like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.